Hello, everyone. Cornell Cruz Jr., Executive Director from the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida. Welcome back to the Just Economy podcast. We have a great guest today, and we'll get to her in a second. The Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida sponsors the Just Economy podcast. A couple of big things coming up for the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida. We're going to be introducing the nonprofit capacity building project starting in late August. And this will be for nonprofits who has a budget of $500,000 or less, and they will be able to pay for a large variety of services, from accounting to studies to research. Even they will be actually be able to pay for a new person to come on and bringing on staff, staff training, even conferences we're going to be able to do as well. Organizations will be able to apply for up to $20,000. So this will be a great thing for those organizations to help build their capacity. This is powered by Truist Bank. They were the grant provider for this particular project. We're looking to meet with other banks in order to invest in this as well. This is a very great thing for those smaller organizations who've been struggling a little bit in the past, trying to build their organization and just need that little extra oomph in order to make it happen. So we're going to be able to provide that. As a matter of fact, my guest this morning is actually going to talk about some of the things that her organization provides. But this will be a great capacity building project, a great project to help these organizations build their capacity. Look forward to seeing the announcement. Look forward for the flyers. You must be a member of the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida. Check us out at reinvestmentalliance.org. Come on and be a member so you'll have the opportunity in order to apply. Our guest today is Angela MOOS from BSRI Institute. She's going to talk to us about what her organization does. And if you are a nonprofit organization and you need data, you need studies, you need research, this is the kind of thing she's going to do. And she's going to elaborate on all of that a whole lot better than I can. But we welcome Angela. Thank you for coming and being on the Just Economy podcast.
Thanks for having me, Cornell. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So we're just going to have a conversation. She's going to talk about all the great things that her organization does. But before we get to that, I'm a big history buff. So I like to know how people get from yesterday to today. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and I was there, did my undergraduate there at Creighton University. Then I moved to Atlanta to pursue graduate school, and I was there for about 6 years. I met my husband-to-be, who decided he wanted a second career as an attorney. So he wound up going to law school at University of Miami, and right as I was finishing up my doctorate in Atlanta, we both moved down here to Miami and have been down here ever since. And so I really got my career started. It was a nice ending for me in Atlanta, graduating from my program and then coming down here to start my career.
So what was that program?
It was a master's PhD program in community psychology at Georgia State.
Really? Community psychology.
Community
psychology. Wow. Ooh. That's deep. That is truly deep. So Angela, before we get to the BSR Institute, what drove you to start this organization?
Well, the organization was founded by Robert Ladner in 1976, but Dr. Ladner is still very prominent in the community here in Miami. He still runs BSR Corporation. Okay. And they do a lot of great work in the HIV/AIDS space, so we're lucky to have them as a partner. But the Institute had been dormant from 1981 until 2010.
Really?
And when I joined the corporation, working under Dr. Ladner, I found out about the Institute and was just really intrigued about this idea to have a 501c3 organization providing not direct services, but providing data support, evaluation support, research support, all the things that I had just learned about in my program that I was so excited to get going on, that we wound up having conversations and were able to revive the organization. And then I was able to start working for it formally in 2011 and become the executive director in 2015.
Oh, okay. I got some other questions about some things you just said, but before I get to that, what is the mission of BSRI?
So, Behavioral Science Research Institute's mission is to support the social impact sector. I know you love calling these organizations social impact organizations. To support that sector by supporting them to make informed and effective decisions through tools, resources, services that we provide so that they can use data for action.
Mm-hmm.
And the tools and services we provide vary. You mentioned some of them. They're, one-pagers, research briefs, literature reviews. We've been doing a lot of interactive data dashboards. We also do quite a bit of support on federal grant reporting, which can be very tedious for our partners. We do capacity building around data and evaluation and convening our partners around common community needs. But the key here in our mission is data for action, because we're not in the business of gathering data for the sake of data or for the sake of advancing the field per se. We really want to give our partners the tools and the information so that they can enhance their program, refine their service, strengthen their funding portfolio or their funding allocation, all of those things.
Okay, so it's very interesting, all the things you just listed, because most of the social impact, or every social impact organization that I know of and has been involved with for the last 20 years, we're all mission driven. You know what I mean? The first thing we ask when someone asks us, what do? We talk about our mission, whatever the issue is we're going to solve in the community or try to solve or help within the community. But what's interesting about what you just said is you looking at it from a data portion. We can, I can have all the passion in the world, but I got to be able to report those numbers. And I think one of our big issues is, how do we get those numbers? And you guys can help us with that.
Yeah, the approach that we take is to really work with our clients and partners, whether they're smaller businesses or funders or universities. We really want to understand why they are interested in data, and that usually starts with questions they have or questions their stakeholders have. So data is only useful if you're using it to answer questions. And sometimes formulating those questions is the hardest part. So we have a model that allows us to walk our clients through that process of deciding what questions they have. Maybe they have a question about a program's impact, or they have a question about how to refine things, or is their staffing correct? Or sometimes it's organizational. Do we have the right workflow internally? So once we have those questions in place, then we can design data processes to answer those.
I mean, it's so interesting. Another point you just made that was excellent is staffing, because we have a tendency as a social impact organizations, we have a tendency to get staffing that can meet a particular need within the organization, but may not help the community, right? And that same person may not have the passion. So you guys can actually help us with how we, even get in the right staff person who's probably right or wrong for the job, right?
Absolutely. I think evaluation and data-driven decisions, this is a human aspect, right? We use data to make decisions every day, whether it's observations around us or, if our stomach grumbles, we know we're hungry. I mean, we're constantly bringing in data. And so these data concepts and the work that we do doesn't just apply to external programs or services. We encourage organizations to embed these processes internally so they can have strategic planning, so they can take a look at their organizational processes. It's really a way of doing business more so than, a single service that we're offering.
I hope you're listening to social impact organizations, and that includes me. I'm listening to you, Angela. I'm thinking about all the things that we didn't necessarily do wrong, but we did out of passion without study and data to back up the things that we wanted to do. We all do the numbers, I think, but we may not use them correctly, when we're trying to tell our story, right?
It's true. I don't necessarily fault the organizations themselves, because funding nowadays, it's very restricted. So organizations are often left with making a decision of whether to invest in the business themselves or to serve their community. And that's a really hard place to be in.
Oh, yeah, something I hope I never have to see. So Give us an explanation as to why this is so important to the community.
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly what we were just talking about. So at the end of the day, these social impact organizations are filling needs that the community has. They're often needs that have been created or exacerbated by corporate greed. And they're unmet needs that the government just doesn't have the resources or isn't allocating the resources to meet them. So they are critical to our community's health and well-being. They're critical to safe and happy and thriving neighborhoods that we all want to live in. But these organizations, if they have to make the choice of putting their funding towards meeting their needs or towards investing in their business, they're going to pick the community because they're built out of passion and they're individuals who sometimes have faced those needs themselves. And we wouldn't tell them otherwise. I think our ask is at the funder level to understand that to be a successful business, they still have to make payroll.
Yeah.
They still have to keep the lights on if they have brick and mortar. To be a successful business, you need more than 4% admin or operations. I mean, you need a decent amount of money to make that investment. And that's on the leadership development side. It's on the strategic planning side. It's on the data and evaluation side. But investing in organizations at that level is going to pay dividends. And we've seen it happen.
Yeah, we can't just think that we can survive on passion alone. We need the data and we need help with the data because I think while we can gather numbers, we don't know how to aggregate it well. And that's something that you guys can help us with, correct?
It is. We support organizations to build data infrastructure, which is a fancy way of saying how to collect data, how to keep data, how to store it, and then what to do when you want to use it. All of those pieces.
Okay, lightning bolt. What to do when we want to use it? You know what I mean? Because I think everybody thinks, or most organizations think, and even the large organizations think in the terms of, let's put that number there, let's put that number there, let's put that number there and that number there and then in most grants that you see, especially that are online, and especially federal grants or government grants, they want to know how to interpret those numbers. So you guys can help us with actually interpreting the numbers that we're just inputting, right?
We absolutely do. We do quite a bit of data analysis support. Sometimes even when organizations are able to make those transformations to evaluative thinking, to using data, they still do outsource a portion of that work. To us, it could be, a high technical analysis or something like that. But I think where we really thrive is when we have that communication with our clients and partners to contextualize those findings, because they're on the ground, they're doing the work. So we can tell them what we're seeing in the data, but we are really relying on them, on their constituents, on their partners to say, this must be why we're seeing that, to interpret and then take recommendations that we might have and tailor them so they can actually take that action.
Okay, my next question, because I saw this on your website.